So I guess here I am. First video. This feels really fucking shit. Not gonna lie. The whole filming a video thing, like I really want to do this, but it feels really shit at the same time. I think because you see a lot of people making shit online and they speak from this point of view of they know everything about life in the world and how it all works and what the best way to go about living is as a man, a woman, or whatever. And a lot of it is just fucking gross, I think. Like, it really, like, I don't have social media right now. I've deleted all of it. Every now and then I'll get it back just to see what's happening. But in general, for most of my days, I don't have it at all. When I do have it, I get on for like 10, 15 minutes and then get disgusted and delete it. So it feels weird, me doing this, because I'm going to be putting this on YouTube or whatever, where else. But regardless, it's because I want to. I want to share what I'm thinking and the thoughts that go on in my brain and the hopes that maybe some people will listen to it and relate in one way or another, and therefore by relating have their lives be benefited in one way or another. Not quite sure. Who fucking knows whether or not this will be worth anything. I don't know. But regardless, I do want to do it. So I'm just going to have to remember that as I make more videos. So I want to establish one thing, I guess, off the bat, with this being my first one. And it's that I want to give my personal opinion about specific topics and ideas by trying my best to remain objective. Because I believe being objective and being rational is, if not one of the most important things in life when it comes to living happily and living something that feels at least somewhat meaningful, without religion, or because I'm you could call me agnostic, I guess. I don't follow a belief system or religion that's pre-established, I guess. The way I want to go about my life is to try to figure out my own. And I don't know quite what put me on that path, but that's where I am. I'd like to figure out my own way of living, my own religion, I guess you could say, which is unique to me, because when you look at people in the world, each and every single person you look at is hopefully an individualistic, their own individual person, their own individual soul. And hold on, it's probably a bit better, but they're their own individual soul. And with that, all of their unique experiences, combined with their being their singular observer of reality from their point of view, hopefully they can understand that their life is theirs and live a life according to that. But this is one of the reasons why I want to make videos, is there seems to be a loss of that. There seems to be a loss of people understanding that my life is mine and yours is yours, and so long as we don't fuck with each other's freedom to live our lives, I don't care what you do and you don't care what I do. That's like been one of the best additions to modern life. One of the best things that's come about from a globalized world that gives us all the resources we need. We have, stores that give us food whenever we want. We have clean water that's always being produced that we can drink without worry of being sick. We have medicine, antibiotics to get if we ever do get sick that will heal us. We have hospitals to go to if we have broken bones, or if you get pregnant and you're about to have a kid and you need a C-section, so you can actually birth the child without losing your life. The modern world has given us amazing things that we used to have to fight and kill each other over, but we have that now en masse. And I think one of the consequences of that in the early stages, like right about after World War II, around 1945 and up, one of the benefits of that was this understanding that, listen, we don't have to fight over resources anymore. We don't have to fight over land anymore. If you have money, you just work and add your own addition to the economy, then you can go and you can buy your own land. You can raise your own family, your own house, your own home. You can create your own business if you want to. And with that came this understanding of, you can do that and I can do that. And we don't have to fight and kill each other over resources anymore, or over anything anymore, because we all have access to it thanks to the globalized system that came about after the end of World War II. And that seems to be going away. And I guess one thing I've been thinking of is why is that system going away? And this leads me to, I'll get to this actually later. One opinion I would have on that is, firstly, the idea of deglobalization, first off, is one thing. That's what I'll get to in a second. Peter Zion talks about this a lot. He's a geopolitical analyst. I read his book recently. The End of the World is Just the Beginning. Fantastic read. Really makes you understand the sort of fragility of the global system. That if product manufacturing gets halted or paused in one country or another, then all of the products that come out of that country will not be able to be included in other products. So, like, if you look at a car, for instance, every car that you look at, the individual parts that make the whole of the car have all come from different countries, because different countries specialize in different technologies. They have specific infrastructure that's that allows for the creation of specific parts of a car, and other countries don't have that. So if you take away globalization, then you won't be able to have that car, so long as your country doesn't build new infrastructure to allow that car to be built. So something this has made me think about is, okay, yeah, the whole globalized system is really, really fragile. And that's a really humbling feeling that this book, Peter Zion's book, has given me. The End of the World is Just the Beginning. Highly recommend the read for everybody. But the one thing is that's not here quite yet. Deglobalization isn't here quite yet. Maybe it won't happen, but from Peter's book, it sounds like it most definitely will. That's a video I'll probably do later, my opinions on that book, but that's not what I specifically want to talk about right here, right now. What I do want to talk about is we still have a globalized system. Regardless of whether or not deglobalization will happen or not, we still have a globalized system. We still have this world that allowed people to understand their own free life, and that my life is mine, yours is yours. We can do as we please so long as we do not infringe on each other's freedoms. So we still have that same world that allowed for that belief system to originate in America. So why is it going away? Why is it changing? Why can I no longer do me so long as you can do you? Why do we have to combat each other based on our own belief systems when it doesn't affect the other person? And that is something I've been thinking about a lot recently. I'd like to maybe write up an essay or something to be more specific and iron out more specific points. But I think speaking from a really broad point of view, I could say one thing that definitely is a cause of that is the amount of time that people in my generation, especially Gen Z, I'm 20 years old, so people in my generation being raised in a very comfortable and safe world. We haven't had to fight a world war. We haven't had a Great Recession happen. I mean, sure, it happened in 2008, but a lot of people were able to deal with that very well. I remember my family struggled, yeah, but ultimately, still had food, still had water, and on top of that had gaming. You had the Wii back then, playing Super Mario Bros. And shit, which it provided a distraction, so you didn't have to understand the brutal nature of what happened in 2008. Or the brutal nature of anything else that's happened up to this point, because there weren't very many brutal things that happened. There weren't very many challenging things that happened. And so for anything that was mildly challenging, somebody in my generation, could easily mask that pain by distracting yourself with your phone, your iPod, instant access to music, YouTube, video games, all of that shit. So you had easy distractions to not think about the difficult things that happened. You lived in pleasure. We lived in pleasure for so long. We're still at the beginning of globalization, around the end of World War II. Ultimately, things were still challenging. People were building a new nation. They were trying to establish new policies to allow this new nation to continue to thrive. In this new world that we were entering into, the globalized world, we were trying to make that thrive. So there was still this challenge that people had to overcome. But maybe the millennials, you could say, also relate to Gen Z in this way, and that we were the first generation to live through the product of globalization, the pure product of globalization, where we don't have to expand the system anymore. We're purely just enjoying its benefits, the ability to buy iPhones and other pieces of technology whenever we want, video games whenever we want. No new focus had to be put on growing the system. It was already grown to a fully globalized system. The only energy that people had to put towards maintaining this now were people in positions of power in the government, are working with the EU or NATO or anything like that, having to protect certain policy or enact certain policy to maintain the system. It seems like it didn't have to grow much from maybe millennials generation, but especially Gen Z's generation. So globalization came about and it stabilized, and I'm just going to say Gen Z, maybe millennials. I'm just not going to think about that, but Gen Z definitely is like the first generation to experience the completely pleasure-filled generation of human history, living in the globalized age where you have the world's leading superpower, the U.S., protecting other European nations. Let me get that light back on. Protecting other European nations from going to war with each other because we didn't want that to happen. We said, hey, you don't have to fight over resources anymore. You can just sell us specific products, such as like the Middle East. You can just sell us oil and we'll protect you from being invaded from your neighbors or things like that. Obviously, it's a way more complicated system. We had the war with Afghanistan and Iraq and all that, but just one example. Other like France, the UK, all these other places, protecting them from going to war with each other because they could benefit more from being in a globalized system instead of fighting. So we had the world's superpower doing that, and the system being maintained, and us having instant access to pleasure at all points of the time. And I think the consequence of this, one of the consequences of this pleasure-filled generation that is Gen Z, is the minor tribulations and trials of life became amplified because we had no deeper understanding of what a deep, deep, dark struggle meant. We had no conceptualization of what a war could mean. We have people fully supporting a new war brewing in Europe. And I mean, the politics of Russia and Ukraine are probably very complicated. Haven't looked into them too much specifically, like who really is to blame, how much is NATO to blame, how much is Russia to blame, is there more to the situation? I'm sure there is. I'd have to look more into that. But without people without looking into it more are saying, yeah, let's just keep on pushing Russia's buttons without the worry or the comprehension of how detrimental a nuclear war would be. And if you keep pushing Russia's buttons, Russia has a lot of nukes. They can launch those whenever the fuck they want. And with that brings pretty much the end of the world as we know it, or at least a drastic change where we go backwards centuries and centuries in technology. And the survivors have to battle the elements again. Like, when was the last time? Did you ever have a year in your life where winter came around and you thought to yourself, oh, gee, I didn't stock up enough crops this winter or buy enough groceries or supplies this winter to be able to survive. Now I'm probably going to lose like half of my siblings, and they're going to die just because it's cold and we don't have enough food. That really sucks. Maybe we should do a better job of preparing for winter next year. No, it gets cold and you don't think anything of it. Not at all. And this is one thing that Peter's book made me think a lot about too, is early humans from early human civilization, they had to battle the weather constantly. Every winter that came about, if you lived in a region that had a tough winter, you better hope that you saved up enough supplies to keep fires burning throughout winter so you can stay warm, that you had enough food stocked up because you can't grow anything in the winter. Maybe you can hunt and get lucky by getting one animal or another, but ultimately you're going to have to depend on supplies for the majority of the food that you're eating. And especially dry wood to keep fires. But ultimately, when in these early human stages of civilization, when winter came about, just winter, pretty snowflakes that you and I love building snowmen in or whatever when we were kids, and oh, it's Christmas time, winter's coming, it's Christmas, yay! I love Christmas, I love winter. Winter used to kill half of a village because it was just too fucking cold and they didn't have enough food. And winter went on for about 2 weeks longer than they planned for. And so that 2 weeks they didn't have enough food to keep themselves going. And so they had to ration it, and some people ended up dying. That was what human civilization looked like a lot when we were in our earlier stages of species development, of civilizational development. And I'm not saying that our current generation or world doesn't have its issues. It definitely does. But I think people have taken for granted the pleasures and the safety nets that we have, such as such as, I mean, a high reduction in crime and death compared to past stages of human civilization. There's no longer slavery, besides people who are getting sex trafficked and shit like that, which that's another story. But ultimately, there's no nation that uses slavery as its main means to industrialize or to grow anymore. We don't. People are free. I mean, at least in America, people are incredibly free. And so I'm speaking from a position of America for the most part, because I live here. I really don't know too much of what it's like in Europe. I spent some time down in South America before, in Ecuador and Costa Rica, and both of those were beautiful experiences, but not long enough for me to get a good idea of what the culture was like down there, except for the fact that it seemed a lot more relaxed. But coming back to America, we have way more, what would you call it, like infrastructural benefits, with hospitals and everything like that. Things are just really, really solid. If you look at what we have now through the lens of what human history has looked like since the dawn of time, 35,000 years ago, roughly, when Homo sapiens, or whatever the fuck we're called, first came into being. It's been pretty all right since the end of World War II about. But because of the common phrase, history tends to repeat itself, or however that phrase goes, we haven't spent as much time understanding the weight of history, and it's really showing now. Like, we learned about the Holocaust in World War II with Nazi Germany, and how they part of the reason why they were able to kill so many Jewish people, the Nazis, was because they slowly but surely started to take their rights away, and they started to dehumanize them, and then put them into ghettos, and then eventually ship them off to be burnt alive in this horrible system. Fucking disgusting. But the lesson you can take from that, instead of just being like, fuck that, fuck all systems because this led to this horrible thing called the Holocaust and all this, fuck all systems, let's tear it all down and get angry. Like, instead you could look at that as like, shit, that happened. That was a dark period in human history. Let's make sure that we don't ever let anything like that happen again, because that's utterly disgusting. So what does that mean if we don't want to let this happen ever again? What are the most obvious correlations you could draw between, or like, one of the most obvious points you could draw from that, at least I think, maybe I'm wrong in thinking this, but it seems pretty obvious to me, is, okay, give people, everybody, equal freedom to exist in their own right, and don't start taking away certain people's rights, because the more tribalized we get, the more brutal we get, the more we start to justify in our minds doing horrible things, like letting a certain group of people not go to the movies, and then making them eventually wear a golden star, and then making them live in poor ghettos because you blamed all of society's issues on them, and then, looks like you're already shipping them off to the furnaces. It seems pretty obvious to just understand that the more you dehumanize people, the more you take away their freedoms and their rights, the more authoritarian the government gets, and the easier it is for dark things to happen again, like has happened in human history before. And so I think with this lack of understanding of history and the dark periods of history that humanity has seen, without people of my generation especially understanding the true darkness that was those times, like living in the Soviet Union, or being in Nazi Germany and being a Jew, or even far before then, far before industrialization, or in the beginning stages of industrialization, people dying of tuberculosis all the time, people living in the slums, and like the horrible living conditions that was that. We have things pretty all right. And the more you start to take away this system that we have and damn it and try to drag it down, without providing a better alternative as much and making that a second thought, the more you're tearing away the system that's pretty all right compared to the past stages of human history, and the darker things have the potential of becoming. So I guess if you're trying to create a new world, if you see issues with the world today, which is totally justifiable, there definitely are issues with the world today, at least understand that things are pretty all right. And so there's a lot of good that can be taken from the world today and applied to whatever new way of living that you're trying to concoct up and think on your own. And so if you're trying to take away the system that is modern life of the globalized, industrialized world, you better have a decent alternative. You better take some good and bring it into your new world. If you're just trying to tear things down just for the sake of tearing them down because you don't like them right now, because you've experienced such a long state of pleasure that the most minor tribulations that just come with being human, like being insecure with yourself or having anxiety or depression or whatever, that these minor tribulations require the complete destruction of modern life, then you're just going to make things worse, most likely. And I think a lot of depression and anxiety, or these just negative feelings and emotions that people have altogether towards society, could really just be taken away almost in an instant. And I know because I've had a lot of negative feelings and emotions towards society as well. Like, I was on the far left political side of the spectrum in like 2020 and all that shit. And the more and more insane it started to get, and angry and frustrated it started to get, I didn't turn Republican or conservative at all. The more and more I just simply understood, okay, when you start to identify with a group and groupthink and group behavior, the more that your individual spirit and your individual soul is taken away from you, because you are no longer, like I said earlier in the video, I said, a lot of people, you're the only one that experiences and feels the things that you're experiencing and feeling. And you've had all of your own unique individual life experiences up to this point, and then pair that with your own experience of reality. That is you. Your past experiences that you've experienced in your life, and the present moment of you perceiving things and then drawing passions and dreams that out of that you would like to achieve in life. That's you. But when you start to forget those things and you start to identify with the group for the sake of identifying with the group, then that individual spirit that I just described starts to go away, because now you are feeling the same as other people because you want to belong in a social group, or because you feel that they're on the right side of human history and you want to be on the right side of human history because it sounds so beautiful. Who wouldn't want to be on the right side of human history? But the thing is there's really no right or wrong side of human history. There's darkness and there's light, and there's happiness and sadness, and there's depravity and there's good. There's all of these different things, and it's up to you and I to choose which way to go about living. It's not up to anybody else. The second you make it up to anybody else, world becomes pretty authoritarian. Now you're not making the decisions for yourself. Now a government does. It's only going to go downhill from there until you're living in a totalitarian state like Brave New World or 1984. Yeah, fuck that. I would rather be able to live and die by my own hands and live the life that I want to live. I wouldn't want to live the life that somebody else tells me I need to live, because I'm alive. Like I just said earlier, I'm the only one experiencing my life. You can't take that away from me. Well, you can. You can take that away from me, but I would prefer you not to, because I want to continue to live my fucking life. And I hope you do the same, because when you start living your life, you actually, like, this is going back a little bit now, went a little bit roundabout, but when you start living your own life, a lot of the depression, anxiety, fears and worries that you have towards yourself, towards life, towards meaning, towards death, they start to go away. It's insecurity with yourself that really causes a lot of negative emotions that people blame, like chronic mental illness on. I mean, there definitely are people that suffer from chronic mental illness. There definitely are people that have imbalances of chemicals in their brain, just as there's all different types of people suffering from all different types of medical conditions. But how likely is it that like fucking half of my generation is born with a chemical misimbalance of dopamine and serotonin in their brain? How likely is that? I'd say probably pretty unlikely. You know, that's a major failing of the human body. Why would that all of a sudden happen? Why would all of a sudden people in my generation be being born with brains lacking of normal function? I think a more likely explanation for the rising, skyrocketing levels of mental illness and pain and suffering and anxiety and depression that are happening with my generation are purely just a cause of social media, technological access, losing sight of the individual, losing sight of the feeling of power that you get when you decide to just live on your own right, live your own life because you're the only one that exists in it. You can't bring somebody else into your world. You can't make them a part of your life. You're the only one that is seeing the things that you are seeing through your eyes, through hearing the things that you're hearing through your ears, speaking the things that you speak through your mouth, tasting the things that you taste, and touching the things that you touch. You're the only one that experiences all of that on your own right. So the second you start to try to bring somebody else in that, or the second somebody else starts worming their way into your mind because you hear them talk all the time on social media about how certain opinions that you have are bullshit or sick or part of the wrong side of human history or part of the right side of human history, the more you lose your spirit and the more your identity just gets replaced with some other person that you see online. And I think that's a cause of a lot of the sickness that we're seeing today in my generation especially, is that. That's what's causing it. Other people worming their way into people's minds. And so, man, if I want to provide any solution, I'm speaking from personal experience. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. It's up for you to decide and you to realize and you to think. But at least ever since I made the decision to start living for my own right and to start recognizing my life as my life, because that, in truth, objectively is what it is. My life is my life. It is not anybody else's life. Sure, I have my family, I have my friends, I have people that I care about, and I care to spend time with them because I enjoy it, but their life is not mine. My life is mine. And the things that I do in my life, I want to only do them because I decided to do them, because it's what I want to do. That's feels like true freedom, I guess. And I'd say, if you're struggling with a lot of shit, just try deleting social media. Try just getting off of everything. Get off the internet for a while. And I can probably guarantee, maybe I'm wrong, like I said, but it feels like right now I could guarantee to you that a lot of the issues you're feeling will just magically start going away. Maybe not magically. Maybe you're going to go through a little bit of a dark period as you start to see all of these missteps you've made in your life, but I promise you that gets over with too. When you start feeling like seeing all these failures that you've had, these mistakes that you've made in your life, and when you instead start creating the solutions from yourself versus finding solutions from other people and implementing them into your mind, you hear somebody else tell you, this is how you're a good person and this is how you're a bad person. And you're like, oh, this person says this is how to be good. Okay, I will just adopt that. The more you start doing that, the more stressed you're going to get. But the less you start doing that, and the more you start saying, maybe I can just figure this out on my own. Maybe I can figure out what it means to be good on my own. The more you start thinking that, the more your mistakes become less scary, and they just become like, oh, shit, I really just fucked up there. I really just wasted a lot of time doing that or thinking that or being that or speaking like that. I really just wasted a lot of time doing that. And now that I see that, there's this feeling of freedom that I have now of like, wow, I've been wasting my life and wasting my time living for other people and living for other people's idea of what it means to be good or what it means to be bad. And I have never, ever just lived for myself and lived for my own experience and created my own idea of what it means to be good or bad. And everything I've experienced from this is complete, just this feeling of freedom, this feeling of like, damn, like, yeah, I'm pretty glad I'm alive now. This is pretty cool. One of those things that helps, definitely, like I felt a lot of this stuff since I was young, but I kind of lost it over the years as all the political debate, all the political tribalism grew louder and louder and more prominent in the world. I started to lose it and like forgot about it completely. And was wondering like, man, there's like this empty feeling in me. There was something that I had known and had discovered so long ago, but now I feel like I'm living without that and it feels dark and horrible. And then I read The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. And now I'm sure a lot of people don't like hearing that name, but so be it. That book reminded me of the thing that I lost. Sure, Ayn Rand could be wrong about many things, but one thing that you can take away from her is the importance of living for yourself, just basically the things I've already been talking about. I would definitely recommend that book to anybody that's feels like something's missing in life or like doesn't enjoy their life so much. I would definitely recommend it because it reminded me of this wonderful thing that I'd found when I was younger and helped me to rediscover that. And that's why I'm talking to you about it in this first video. I think that's one of the most important things for people of my generation to know is to start living for yourself, to stop living the lives and emotions and thoughts and feelings of other people. Like, I know it seems kind of like hypocritical of me saying this stuff while I'm making a video and providing a perspective to you, but so maybe that's hypocritical, maybe, but at least it seems not terribly hypocritical because I'm telling you to like get off of media and to live for yourself. So sure, that's me sharing my idea of what it means to be good, I guess. But so I'd like to just preface that with, I guess, make your own decision too. Maybe I'm wrong. Like I said, I could be. Who knows what's truly right or wrong? I mean, life's really confusing. Maybe there is a God with some overarching like law book for how we're supposed to live as human beings, or maybe there is none, and maybe everything is completely random and nothing truly has inherent meaning. Who knows? But all I know, at the very least, is I'm alive. I see things, I feel things, I touch them, taste them, hear them. I think things. I think things, I feel them. That's probably like the most important things. I think and I feel. And I mean, I could say I'm alive, and I find a lot of things cool in this thing that we call reality and being alive. I find a lot of them cool. And like being able to make your own decisions, I find that pretty cool. I find it pretty uncool when people start to take away your ability to think for yourself and make your own decisions, so long as it doesn't harm another person physically. So I'd like to maintain that, and I'd also like to do things such as write. Like, I'm working on a book right now. I finished the first draft, so I'm about like 30% of the way through my first edit, and then keep working from there. Even if that doesn't work out at all, like, still, I'm doing what I want to do with myself, which is write a book. That's something I've wanted to do for a while, and I finally buckled down and decided to do it a few months ago. And now it's coming along pretty decently, I say. Hopefully the story's enjoyable for other people, but I decided I want to do that. I wanted to do that because I was alive, and that's something that I felt like I wanted to do. And so I'm doing it, and it makes things feel meaningful when you just do what you want to do with your existence because it's your existence. And when you don't let other people in to steal that existence away from you. So I think that probably covers pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. Read lots. That's another thing I've done, is start reading a whole lot, as much as I can. Fiction, nonfiction. It's incredible when you start reading. It's much different than hearing somebody online tell you, this is what you're missing out on, this is how to be a good guy in today's society, or this is how to be a good woman in today's society, or like this and this, and I know all about society, and like you just got to participate in it like this, or do this thing or this thing, and that's how you find meaning. Like, there's that online, a lot of that online, and it doesn't allow you to kind of think and feel your own, derive your own sort of meaning or your own sort of thought about whatever it is that you're consuming, because it's just some guy telling you his feelings and presenting them as though they're supposed to be yours. But when you read, I'm reading this right now, another Ayn Rand book, We the Living, takes place in Soviet Russia. Really fucking good book so far. I love it. I'm a little over halfway done. Fucking fantastic. But the cool thing about it is you get to just watch a story unfold. A story about a person, a character in a specific world. You get to watch that unfold, and instead of having the narrator tell you how to feel the entire time, the narrator just describes what it is that they are feeling and that they are thinking regarding the situation and the story itself. And so you, being the reader, the objective observer, you get to make your own decisions on how to feel regarding the subject. Obviously, that's influenced by theme, by specific word choice, by tone, and all that the writer uses when writing the book. But it's really easy to spot that. It's really easy to be like, oh yeah, this is supposed to be intense, or this is supposed to be sad, or this is supposed to be hopeful. But it just fucking doesn't make you think that way. Like it just presents it as, oh wow, man, the narrator really feels what they're saying here. They really feel it to be important. And you can derive from your own experience of reading the book, because you're not directly being told how to feel, and you're just watching a objective story play out versus hearing somebody tell you what's good and how to be good, and you're able to form your own idea on whether or not the point that the writer was trying to make is good or bad or worthwhile or not to believe. So yeah, read. It's what I've been doing. It's helped immensely. Learn how the world works a bit more, and you kind of figure out more with each book that you read, more about who you are as a person. And I think that's just the cure that we need. That might be, again, my opinion, could be wrong, but to me it seems like one of the cures, at least, to this sort of sickness that a lot of people are feeling in today's society, especially with my generation, Gen Z, is this inability to live as your own being, and this needing this needing of other people's approval by being in their group to feel meaning. And I think that's sad, because you were born as you. You weren't born as Jan to then live as John, to live for other people. You weren't born as that. You were born as yourself, and you have the complete authority to decide whether or not you want to live as yourself or live as another person. That decision's up to you and you alone, and if you don't decide to live yourself, you very well may regret it at the end of life. Again, I don't know for certain, because I have not been on a deathbed yet, but to me it seems very likely that would be the case, that when I'm on my deathbed, if I lived for other people my entire life, I would definitely not be like, man, I'm glad that I put away all of my dreams and my ambitions and my emotions and my feelings and my thoughts. I'm glad I pushed them all to the wayside and ignored them throughout my entire singular existence so that I could live for somebody else and make sure that they're happy. I doubt that's going to be the case. So yeah, that's about it. Going to be making more videos and shit. Don't know like if I'm going to have a schedule or whatever, but the plan is to keep on posting shit as I think about it. I have an essay sort of thing that I'm working on right now, which is, I read the Jurassic Park books recently, which were fantastic, and got a big, decent idea from that I'd like to talk about in another episode, so I'm writing that out right now. So yeah, fucking stay tuned, I guess, if you would like to see more of the stuff that I'm along this sort of lines. I don't know quite else what I'll be working on, but regarding just like general thoughts about specific topics that pique my interest that I do want to talk about. And I mean, it's up to you if you want to hear about it or not. So yeah, I mean, obviously, if you want to get notifications on stuff that I post, then subscribe. If you don't want to, then don't. I don't care. It's up to you. But yeah, that's about it for this one. See you later.